If by your art, my dearest father, you have put the wild waters in this roar, allay them. The sky, it seems, would pour down stinking pitch, but that the sea mounting to the welkin's cheek dashes the fire out. Oh, I have suffered with those that I saw suffer. A brave vessel who had no doubt some noble creature in her, dashed all to pieces. Oh, the cry did knock against my very heart. Poor souls, they perished. Had I been any god of power, I would have sunk the sea within the earth or air. It should the good ship so have swallowed, and the frotting souls within her. Be collected. No more amazement. Tell your piteous heart there's no harm done. Oh, woe the day. No harm. I've done nothing but in care of thee, my dear one, thee, my daughter, who art ignorant of what thou art, not knowing of whence I am, nor that I am more better than Prospero, master of a full poor cell, and thy no greater father. More to know did never meddle with my thoughts. 'Tis time I should inform thee, father. Lend thy hand and pluck my magic garment from me. So lie there, my art. Wipe thou thine eyes, have comfort. The direful spectacle of thy rack, which touched the very virtue of compassion in thee, I have with such provision in mine art, so safely ordered, that there is no soul, no, not so much perdition as in hair, betid to any creature in the vessel, which thou heardest cry, which thou sawest sink. Sit down, for thou must now know farther. You have often begun to tell me what I am, but stopped and left me to a bootless inquisition, concluding, stay, not yet. The hour is now come. The very minute bids thee ope thine ear. Obey and be attentive. Canst thou remember a time before we call unto this cell? I do not think thou canst, for then thou wast not out 3 years old. Certainly, sir, I can. By what? By any other house or person? Of anything the image tell me that hath kept with thy remembrance? 'Tis far off, and rather like a dream than an assurance, that my remembrance warrants. Had I not 4 or 5 women once that tended me? Thou hadst, and more, Miranda. But how is it that this lives in thy mind? What seest thou else in the dark, backward and abysm of time? If thou rememberest aught ere thou camest here, how thou camest here thou mayest. But that I do not. 12 years since, Miranda, 12 years since, thy father was the Duke of Milan and a prince of power. Sir, are not you my father? Thy mother was a piece of virtue, and she said thou wast my daughter, and thy father was Duke of Milan, and his only heir and princess, no worse issued. Oh, the heavens! What foul play had we that came from thence, or blessed wasn't we did? Both, my girl. By foul play, as thou sayest, where we heaved thence, but blessedly hope hither. Oh, my heart bleeds to think of the teen that I have turned you to, which is from my remembrance please you farther. My brother and thy uncle, called Antonio, I pray thee mark thee, that a brother should be so perfidious. He whom next thyself of all the world I loved, and to him put the manage of my state, as at that time, through all the signories, it was the first, and Prospero the prime duke, being so reputed in dignity and for the liberal arts without a parallel, those being all my study, the government I cast upon my brother, and to my state grew stranger, being transported and wrapped in secret studies. Thy false uncle, dost thou attend me? Sir, most heedfully. Being once perfected, how to grant suits, how to deny them, who to advance, and who to trash for overtopping, new created the creatures that were mine, I say, or changed them, or else new formed them, having both the key of officer and office at all hearts of the state, to what tune pleased his ear, that now he was the ivy which have had him my princely trunk, and sucked my verter out on it. Thou attendest not. Oh, good sir, I do. I pray thee, mark me. I thus neglecting worldly ends, all dedicated to closeness and the bettering of my mind, with that which, but by being so retired or prized, all popular rate in my false brother, awakened an evil nature in my trust, like a good parent did beget of him. A falsehood in its contrary as great as my trust was, which had indeed no limit, a confidence hands bound, he being thus lorded not only with what my revenue yielded, but what my power might else exact, like one, who having unto truth, by telling of it, made such a sinner of his memory, to credit his own lie, he did believe he was indeed the Duke out of the substitution, and executing the outward face of royalty with all prerogative. Hence his ambition growing, dost thou hear? Your tale, sir, would cure deafness. To have no screen between this part he played and him he played for it. For he needs will be absolute Milan. Me, poor man, my library was dukedom large enough. Of temporal royalties he thinks me now incapable, confederate so dry he was for sway with a king of Naples, to give him annual tribute, do him homage, subject his coronet to his crown, and bend the dukedom yet unbowed, alas, poor Milan, to most ignoble stooping. Oh, the heavens! Mark his condition, and the event. Then tell me if this might be a brother. I should sin to think but nobly of my grandmother. Good wombs have borne bad sons. Now the condition, this king of Naples, being an enemy to me inveterate, hearkens my brother's suit, which was that he, in lieu of the premises of homage, and I know not how much tribute, should presently extirpate me and mine out of the dukedom, and confer fair Milan with all the honours on my brother. Whereon a treacherous army levied one midnight, fated to the purpose, did Antonio open the gates of Milan. And in the dead of darkness the ministers for the purpose hurried thence, me and thy crying self. Alack, for pity! I, not remembering how I cried out then, would cry it o'er again. It is a hint that rings mine eyes to it. Hear a little further, and then I'll bring thee to the present business which now is upon us, without the which the story were most impertinent. Wherefore did they not that hour destroy us? Well demanded, wench. My tale provokes that question. Dear, they durst not, so dear the love of my people bore me, nor set a mark so bloody on the business, but with colours fairer painted their foul ends. In few they hurried us aboard a bark, porous some leagues to sea, where they prepared a rotten carcass of a butt, not rigged, but nor tackle, sail, nor mast. The very rats instinctively have quit it. There they hoist us, to cry to the sea that roared to us, to sigh to the winds whose pity, sighing back again, did us but loving wrong. Alack, what trouble was I then to you? Oh, a cherubin, thou did preserve me, thou didst smile, infuse it with a fortitude from heaven, when I have decked the sea with drops full salt under my burden groaned, which raised in me an undergoing stomach to bear up against what should ensue. How came we ashore? By providence divine. Some food we had, and some fresh water, that a noble Neapolitan Gonzalo, out of his charity, who being then appointed master of this design, did give us, with rich garments, linens, stuffs, and necessaries, which since must have steadied much. So of his gentleness, knowing I loved my books, he furnished me from mine own library with volumes that I prize above my dukedom. Would I might but ever see that man! Now I arise, sit still, and hear the last of our sea's sorrow. Here in this island we arrived, and here have I, thy schoolmaster, made thee more profit than other princes can, that have more time for vainer hours, and tutors not so careful. Heavens, thank you for it. And now I pray you, sir, for still 'tis beating in my mind your reason for raising this sea storm. Know thus, far forth, by accident most strange, bountiful fortune, now my dear lady hath mine enemies brought to this shore, and by my prescience I find my zenith doth depend upon a most auspicious star, most influence. If now I court not, but omit my fortunes, will ever after droop. Here cease more questions. Thou art inclined to sleep. 'Tis a good dullness, and give it way. I know thou canst not choose. Come away, servant, come. I am ready now. Approach, my Ariel, come. I'll hail, great master, grave Sir, hail.